afternoon. I know some people said, dude, stop. We don't want to hear you pant and wheeze anymore. Too bad. I'm going for a walk and I'm taking you with me because it's gorgeous, if a little hazy. So last week, as you know, I reviewed or did my first look through of the J-Punk RPG from Total Party Skills. And some people said, are you going to look at it again? And I was like, I don't know, do you want me to look at it again? But one interesting comment that came out from that was, I've never seen a game like this before. How do I run it? And I filed that away in the back of the brain. And then over the weekend, it sort of percolated back to the top. See, this is why I like talking to you guys while I'm walking, because I use big words. It percolated back to the top of the brain. And the question was like, okay, yeah, how do I run X? How is giant stompy robots different than spellcasters and guys in armor? Is it different? How do we run this? So I guess this is a beginner GM tip. I don't know, there's a lot of best DM advice I could give you, but this is probably some of my best advice in regards to how to run X. Well, the thing is, you've got to first separate church and state, as they say. Separate the tropes of the genre from the system, or the engine, as I often refer to it, that is powering the genre. Some engines work incredibly well with some genres, others not so much. Good afternoon. Good afternoon, little dog. So, how do you run big stompy robots? Well, you run it like any other game. The trappings of the universe might be specific to the genre of big stompy robots, but at its heart, it's still roll dice, do stuff. It's just what can and can't I do? What are the rules of this universe? And what is the engine? And does the engine work well with that universe? Does the Total Party Skills system do giant stumpy robots really, really well or really, really poorly, to be example? See, because despite all the trappings, when it comes to terms of what we do, there's really no difference between fantasy, science fiction, horror, superheroes, Old West, outer space, knights and ladies, mudcore, brocore, raw, whatever you want to call it. All the different incarnations of roll dice, do stuff. We're still just rolling dice and doing stuff. It's what am I doing? How do I run big stompy robots? How do I run guys in armor? How do I run cowboys and Indians? How do I run super spies? So, and cycling back to the original thought of this meandering is, one, does the system do the genre well? And two, what are the rules, the tropes of the genre? How would I run a giant stompy robot game? How would I run a superhero scenario? How would I run an Old West scenario? Well, first, I'd have to understand the tropes of that genre and hope that the game in question at least provides some guide to how you would run that style of game. What are the tropes of Old West? What are the tropes of a big stompy robot game? What are the tropes of a superhero game? What are the tropes of a game where we're all playing fish? Right? So that would require obviously a little bit of research on your part, but you would hope that the game in, oh God, my shoes. You would hope the game in question provides you with some guidance on that universe. And they will often refer to it, you want to run anime, watch anime shows. You want to run superheroes, watch superhero shows. You want to run Old West, watch spaghetti westerns, right? Those are always a good one. So How do I run this? I've never seen it before. How is it different than the games I know? It's not. The tropes might be different, but the rules are something we all know. Once we understand the rules, everything else is just butterflies and rainbows, right? Is giant stompy robots something you are really, really curious about running? Is it something you're like, God, I've always wanted to do a giant stompy robot game? And now here's the OG GM talking about this J-Punk G-Core system from Total Party Skills, and it's a giant stompy robot game, which I've always wanted to run a giant stompy robot game. Well, then if you've already obviously wanted to always run this genre, then I would assume you have some general passing knowledge of the genre and the ability to research the genre further, to understand the tropes. Once you understand the tropes, then you can just break it down to how you would run anything, right? I mean, we could even use the 5-room dungeon theory and apply it to superheroes, Old West, giant stompy robots, dinosaurs, what have you, right? How much time do I have? How many players do I have? What is the story I want to tell for this session? Is it a short-term story? Is it a long-term story? Is it a one-shot? Is it part of a larger epic arc? Do I understand the tropes of this setting? Do my players understand the tropes of this set? Good afternoon. Oh, look, it's one of Ventura's gangs. Right? Where was I? Oh yeah, talking about Ventura's gang. Speaking of tropes. So again, okay, I want to run Old West. I'm gonna watch some Old West movies. I'm gonna read up on some Old West history on the interweb. Maybe I'll go to the museum if I happen to have one, look at some Old West stuff. Now I generally understand the tropes of an Old West movie. I'm gonna convert that to a role-playing game scenario. And what I'm gonna use is, whatever your preferred adventure writing style is. A lot of us use the quote-unquote 5-room dungeon style. Or the there's only so many stories you can tell style. I'm a big fan of the there's only so many stories you can tell style, the, boy versus world. But I also like the 5-room dungeon. And most of the encounters, most of the sessions, especially if you're dealing with you've got 3 hours twice a week or once a month or whatever, the 5-room dungeon is a perfect philosophy. So how would you run big stompy robots or Old West or superheroes? Okay. Probably you'd start with something flashy, a fight, a breakout, an explosion, an alien invasion, whatever. Something exciting. You don't want to start things out really boring. You want to get them dice rolling as quickly as possible. You want to develop that sense of urgency, get the passion and the heart pumping and get them really invested. So it doesn't have to be a slog, but just something that gets them interacting in the world. So, maybe start it off with them trying, a wagon, because we're Old West. There's a wagon, and the driver's unconscious or dead. It's running wild. It's coming straight towards you. What do? And oh, look, there's dynamite or TNT on the wagon. And if it goes over, it's going to explode. Now, of course, we know that if you knock TNT over, it's not going to explode because it requires a spark. But this is a movie, so of course it'll explode. So there you go. They've got to stop that. So the first thing is some type of action. And the second thing could be something like a social interaction. Questioning the NPCs, investigating the murder, finding out who this guy is and where the wagon came from, figuring out what's going on with these aliens, whatever. It's just, 20 minutes of just them getting to explore the world through their characters' eyes and exploring the tropes of the world. Living, feeling, breathing giant stomping robots. Living, feeling, breathing Old West. Let them ask questions. Let them use, I do this, I do that. Can I go over here? Hey, is this guy blacksmith? Can I talk to him? Sure, go ahead, whatever method you prefer, that you're comfortable with. But, give them that 20 minutes to just social. And room 3. Room 3 is usually a skill test or a trap. Something where there's a little bit more heightened investment, a little bit more excitement. It could even be a social interaction. But again, the tropes are much higher. That could be the lead up to the high noon shootout. The characters staging a bank robbery to get the money they need to get the wagon driver's daughter out of prison. Exploring the crashed spaceship and uncovering the giant stompy robot that you were destined to pilot. So it's skill tests, it's traps, it's tricks, it's not necessarily combat, but it's still exciting. And then you got to have the second combat. That's room number 4, second combat, right? That could be a minor boss. Maybe it's the gangsters who have taken the daughter of the guy whose wagon it was you stopped, that you had to rob the bank to get the money to get her out. But they've betrayed you, they've broken the deal, and they ambush you. Maybe the faceless minions of the big bad who have come down from the UFO to try and stop you from gaining your ranger keys, your mecha, and you've got to stop them. And then room 5 is usually the denouement, the wrap-up. It could be the big fight with the big bad of the session. It could be getting the rewards for the session. It could be tying up all the loose ends for the session. But there you got your 3-hour game. You understand how to run. Then you just throw in the tropes, throw in the cliches, throw in the tried and true living, breathing things that make that world stand out. What are some Old West facts you can dazzle your players with in that 3 hours? What's some sights, smells, emotions you can use to get them to see that world of that crashed spaceship and those giant Japanese robots and the kaiju or whatever. The window dressing to make the world a rich, thick, vibrant place that your characters are going to want to explore. And then you just tie it all up. Here's the ending. All right. Now we've tied everything up. We've had our 3 hours. You've gone through. You've seen how this world works. We're going to return to it again in 2 weeks or what have you. Then you get the Q&A, right? What worked? What didn't work? Is there something you didn't understand? Is there something you thought should happen, didn't happen? Did I get that wrong? Oh, whatever, And now that they've all done that and you've all done that, y'all have a better understanding of the world, and you have some time to continue your research, to go even deeper down the Old West rabbit hole or the giant stompy robot hole or whatever you're running. How do I run Old West? How do I run superheroes? I've never seen it before. Well, you've seen the mechanics. You know the mechanics. You're hoping that the mechanics work well with the genre in question, because some do and some don't, let's face it. 5e. So you understand that. So all you need to do to learn how to run is the tropes, the story, the beats, the beginning, middle, twist, end, denouement. Hook them, get their blood pumping, let them see the world, let them interact with the world, get another fight going, reward them, give them reason to continue. So that's how you would run giant stompy robots. That's how you'd run Old West. That's how you'd run anything. It's really just training your brain to think, well, I'm using X system. I'm pretty sure X system works for genre. Now I need to learn the basic understandings of the genre so that when I start running, X plus Y equals a semi-successful game, and then I can continue my research and dive deeper into the rabbit hole based upon the successes and failures. Did I convey the emotions and the energy and the style of the game or not? And once you've got that, and once you've got the permission to allow yourself to mess up, we talk about that all the time when I do these DM tips, that you know, it's never going to be perfect. You're never going to be Mercer. You're only as good as your most current game. You know, you're never going to be the best in the world. You're only going to have really good moments, and you've got to give yourself permission to mess up. And you've got to give yourself permission to let the players take the story maybe in directions you didn't plan. But that's a whole separate topic. So hopefully I have somehow answered that question or made it even more confused. If you got any other topics you want me to talk about, feel free to let me know. Until then, thanks for joining me for this walk. Enjoy this lovely fall afternoon, and I'll see you all later. Now, get off my land.